Dhamma Shri So Ha. O Namo Madhyo Shri Ye Namo So Shri Ye Namo Dhamma Shri So Ha. Gedang Sugi Chuna La Janchu Badu Nandi Gyab Suji Dagi Chunyin Gibe Sona Gi Rola Beche Sangi Rupa Shu Gedang Sugi Chuna La Janchu Badu Nandi Gyab Suji Dagi Chunyin Gibe Sona Gi Rola Beche Sangi Rupa Shu Gedang Sugi Chuna La Janchu Badu Nandi Gyab Suji Dagi Chunyin Gibe Sona Gi Rola Beche Sangi Rupa Shu Biggie Juji Medora, rerunning Shinji Dekin Body, Sanky Shindo Midemoi, Broken Nanda Shinla Juba Shu, Urorana Mendala Gandhi Adaya. Please adjust your sitting posture according to the 7 meditative postures of Vairochana. All sentient beings have been my mothers. And all sentient beings have been my mothers not just once, but for numberless times. All sentient beings are as kind as my mother in this life. Even though all kind mother sentient beings want happiness and do not want even a small suffering due to engaging wrongly in objects of adoptions and abandonment, they only experience suffering. In our minds, sincerely generate loving kindness towards all kind mother sentient beings by thinking, how nice it would be if all kind mother sentient beings were to have happiness and the causes of happiness that are virtues. May they have happiness and the causes of happiness. I'll cause them to have happiness and the causes of happiness. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so. Next, we generate compassion towards all suffering mother sentient beings by thinking, how nice it would be if the bodies of all suffering mother sentient beings, free from the class discordant with accomplishing virtue, such as physical suffering, pain, sickness, problem caused by 4 elements. May their bodies be free from discordant class, or free their bodies from the discordant class. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so. How nice it would be if the minds of all suffering mother sentient beings were free from the class discordant with accomplishing virtue, such as mental suffering, fears, and all coarse and subtle negative discursive thoughts. May their minds be free from the discordant class. I will free their minds from the discordant class. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
되게 뭐가지고 되게 만들어 되는 거가 찍었어. 아직 뭐 타라 타다 좀 또 진짜 또 다시 어떻게 시 아마도 시기도 있어. 무슨 내가 지금 뭐지?
How nice it would be if the speech of all suffering mother sentient beings were free from the class discordant with accomplishing virtue, all coarse and subtle negative speech, such as lying. May their speech be free from the discordant class. I will free their speech from the discordant class. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
되게 뭐가지고 되게 만들어서 고소 되게 샤워도 그러면 되게 저 타다 저는 좀 또 아무도 무슨 리더십이 아마도 시기도 있어. 내가 지금
How nice it would be if the three doors of all suffering mother sentient beings were free from the class discordant with accomplishing virtue. May their three doors be free from the discordant class. I will free their three doors from the discordant class. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
이제 동원이나 생애들 통지 동해가 동해지 좀 먹게 왔다 전에 좀 또 나와 통치 신기도 있어 무슨 거지.
How nice it would be if all mother sentient beings were free from suffering and the causes of suffering that are non-virtues. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. Our freedom from suffering and the causes of suffering. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
이제 동원이나 생애들 이제 고아들 예수 동원이 무슨 보고 야랑 아버지 대비니 가서 양다 가서 상지지 공부하는 게 이거 그다음에 누가 쓰다 양다 가서 상지라 얘기 쓰게 타지게 되서 상지지 공부하는 거 있겠는데 더 가셔 무슨 내가 장비 쓰고 그랬어.
Next, we generate bodhicitta. First, we ask ourselves who should take on the responsibility to free all mother sentient beings from the sufferings of samsara and of low realms. I should take on the responsibility to free all mother sentient beings from the sufferings of samsara and of low realms. Even though I should take on the responsibility, I do not have the abilities to do so now. Who has such ability? Only those who have achieved the perfectly complete enlightenment have the abilities to do so. Therefore, for the sake of all mother sentient beings, by all means, I will achieve the precious state of enlightenment.
이게 무슨 그 통일되는 상지 공부하다가 샤오는 님의 새 군소 같은 우리가 다 해지고 무슨 한 바지 있죠. 그런 게 모두 모두 공부하는 새 로지도 좀 그런 게 참 있으면 다 해지. 어제가 생각이 한 바지도 주스. 생각이 좀 괜찮지.
Next, we generate all-encompassing yoga mind, the aspiring conventional bodhicitta that thinks, for the sake of all mother sentient beings, I will achieve the state of enlightenment. These transform into a complete mundis at one's heart. The ultimate bodhicitta, that is one's mind becoming in one taste with emptiness, that all phenomena lack of inherent existence. That transform into a white five-tone vajra on top of the mundis.
可以就是到工作的人这个基本上的康调嘛，这个一直动员，这个一记得主要缺的，因为记得中。
That does not exist as inherently one with, nor or inherently different from the aggregates. Thus, I does not exist inherently. If I and aggregates were inherently one, then they would become inseparably partless one. If I and aggregates were inherently different, they would become unrelatedly other. Thus, I and the aggregates do not exist as inherently one or inherently different.
你就是拿去学完东西，我是就依照我看去上个那样，而且说快去做人家的一生活的，而且我说的，让他懂一些本身对我什么东西，而且这个年少工作，喜欢的些世界当中地方就会那个这个没啥的，公司的就新的安，那上不是写完，第一个是给这的，而且不行，那没事的，不认识。
As we always say, is that it's important to conjoin our roots of virtue of our three doors with the practice of six perfections. As we conjoin these roots of virtue with the practice of six perfections, the first one is generosity. The nature of generosity is the mind of giving. So these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on the Dharma is for the sake of purifying suffering and achieving happiness of all sentient beings.
那第一就是讲到，放心嘛，这个就是我什么东西，啊啊，另外个年少过是阶段高是另外个今年把中国的嘛就出，对吧？你的年少过是要被结为呢，那第一个是给在的，这个地方是认识。
Next is morality. The nature of morality is a mind of abandonment. So when I listen to, contemplate, and meditate on Dharma, I will properly abandon my physical and verbal negativities so that they do not manifest.
我随便喜欢的工作，是吧？随便我什么东西，我讲到，年少过是这年少过阶段高的，你现在等于的刚刚各地的碰到，你谁突变啊你，刚到年少过是结为呢？那第一个是给在的，都是你把你认识的认识。
Next is patience. The nature of patience is an undisturbed mind. When I listen to, contemplate, and meditate on the Dharma, I will properly accept, or I will patiently accept only physical or mental sufferings that occur.
那整体说的讲到，我了注意什么，整体是我什么东西，那年少过是教了，给我的注意的，对不对？你上面年少过是结为呢？那第一个是给在的整体不一样的是认识。
Next is joyous effort. The nature of joyous effort is a mind that takes delight in virtue. I will delightfully and enthusiastically engage in the virtue of listening, contemplating, and meditating on the Dharma.
对于上帝说的，可能是给你把空了自己的明白的上帝就我什么东西，那年少过是基本开始很多的那样我的对吧？那现在的你想完了，那自己都要不今天特别完，刚才年少过是怎么结为呢？第一个是给这的，这是不一样的是认识。
Next is concentration. The nature of concentration is a mind that single-pointedly focuses on any virtuous object. I will single-pointedly focus my mind on the virtuous object without being influenced by distractions and discursive thoughts.
就是写了之后的，写了那么就习惯的，写了就我什么东西，那年少过是基本高是最大的看的一那的，商量不到你的细节完了把呀，但现在我就没呢，那那个是给这的，你觉得不行的是认识。
The last one is wisdom. The nature of wisdom is a knower that thoroughly distinguishes phenomena. I will properly and unmistakably understand the words and meanings of the things that I listen to, contemplate, and meditate on. If I'm able to do so, then these roots of virtue will be conjoined with the practice of six perfections.
我对于这些形式，就超级电的上帝是公布的话，并且他当地确实呢，两年最近的几年，接了很多这个你啥都是这样的解决是。
Set a good motivation. For the sake of all mothers sentient beings, I will achieve the state of enlightenment. For these, I will listen to the holy teachings and practice accordingly in order to benefit sentient beings.
我呀，感觉，我都等于别人从别人是，那我是能够做了，那么在你就是把什么你的介绍的话，能够做了，那么家庭的扎送，家庭的扎送的嘛，那么嘛，
Number.
我那么家庭的扎送的话，能够做，我那么家庭的扎送的话，家庭的扎送的话，怎么罗罗是你的起来的一个是吧？那一能把你的你设定，一能把你设定是吧？那一起那个能把你设定，我嘛，当然是能把所有。nanchi kena jada churwa adu samari mbagi ma ana namba de maro roji ma alo tichi ayirwa ta sa cheguna mamu shimjo urwa che esta tamo.
So today we are going to talk about the aspects, 173 aspects. We are going to talk about the aspects of application. Application in complete aspects, sorry. So we are going to talk about the aspects in the applications of complete aspects. So in total, there are 173. So there are 27 aspects of basis. There are 27 aspects of knower of basis, and there are 36 aspects of knower of path, and there are 110 aspects of the sorted knower of all aspects. So we are going through these aspects in a brief manner. Otherwise, it will be actually it will take a very long time.
我这边嘛，马上了，我是这个地方把另外啥的，我不需要搞皮皮告诉我是，呀，确实能把这些把这，是吧？呀，搞当部的呗，说了呗，确实能把这干啥的，他等于肯定那啥的，都把另外是吧？
我来你听他们说좋아 돼. 习惯他们说좋아.
그习惯能做좋아习惯的话，他习惯听到呀，确实能把这些，人家确实些我们说确实能把这。那当部的你把什么质量确实所写上的话，那这里人家看了一拿的，那这里他不是就讲到这些的确啥的呢？人家嘛就是吧？那当部是我是确实能把的说是什么？那当部给他去能把说，那拿去能把的什么一些也说的些，那你把呢？什么呢？一些能把什么说这个的话，而且这里呢，他做了嘛是做了修的，那当不了做能去定的做些，你们做那些，什么做一些是，这个是为了做能不就话什么修的话，那个结巴的嘛，什么嘛，把你去啥的话，去啥的，我他等于那习惯倒是其实你能把的定位的，其实你能把的定一点吧，定一点吧，也是我，其实那不是定，那嘛就把今天就要嘛的是，我们说的其实能把的人的嘛定吧，也是我，那当不着，那我们这方面对，就是能把都说啊，你对不起。那进去，那更习惯倒是其实能把的嘛定一点嘛，也是定，那个人生的开始是那么定的公把写一切的，其实那么定的公把写一切的也是吧？那其实那么定的公把了，你看他啊，他其实能把它往脱一起的，其实能把定的公把在国把开始是，其实能把它往脱一起的，他往脱啊是呢，他多了那个很多脱一起的，真的多希望呢，就是那么定的公把了国把开始呢，他多了那个很多脱一起的。对，其实能把它往脱是吧？他多了那个很多可能。
佢嗱咪嘅，當然佢偏向嘅 number 旺鋪嘅切實啲，你當然嗱咪嘅，啊，同埋嗰係切，對大啲咯，
就是那把老王头啊，是吧？就是那把，啊，其实那么中文国就很方便，那不可能。旺头其实呢，那么旺头这个地方，哇，
旺鋪位呢，你偏向於 number 嘅旺鋪嘅話，
我其实那么旺头，我其实我的也是。
Yeah, so when we talk about the fourth chapter or fourth category, the application in complete aspects, then it talks about the aspects of three exalted knowers. And then someone might think that why talk about the aspects of three exalted knowers again, since it is already individually mentioned in the first three chapters. So the first chapter talks about the aspects of the exalted knower of all aspects. And then the second chapter talks about the aspects of the knower of the path, and the third chapter talks about the aspects of knower of faces. So since they have already individually mentioned in each chapter, why in the fourth chapter again the aspects of three exalted knowers are mentioned? So some might have this doubt. So the purpose of uh, and the aspects of three exalted knowers become the main object of indications in the the aspects of three exalted knowers are mentioned in the fourth chapter, and there is no fault of redundancy because these three aspects of exalted knower of all exalted knowers are collectively indicated together and then indicate or teach. So the purpose of collectively indicating aspects of three exalted knowers are to how to cultivate collectively the aspects of three exalted knowers. So this is the purpose of collectively indicate the aspects of three exalted knowers, is to cultivate collectively the aspects of three exalted knowers. And what is the purpose of collectively cultivates the aspects of three exalted knowers? Is to attain power in aspects of three exalted knowers. So the meaning of attaining power in aspects of three exalted knowers is attain the special insight, observing emptiness. So that is the purpose of attaining power in the aspects of three exalted knowers. So whenever you attain the power in the aspects of three exalted knowers, then you also attain this in the same meaning, meaning wise, then you also attain the special insight, observing the emptiness. So attaining power in the aspects of three exalted knowers and attaining special insight, observing emptiness are have same meaning.
这是第几路啊？所以我谈到那个cấp阶的呗，你不接的话，你不接的，等我是cấp阶的，可是你的嘛，人家做些定过的是学生嘛，定过的是，你呢我是cấp谈不，可是你不接个定过的是定过的是老的，谈不结果呢我不接，强制定过的是定过的也是，你那cấp谈不定下做的搞的是难接的，也是起码是难接的，也是对老的哇，人家cấp谈不这个你不接个定过是定过的是老的。我不接个定个的是，我不接是吧？我就定个的也是。那像这我不接的，当个接嘛，这说说你把是老头把接过的，我不接的他人家们就还说，他现在嘛，我看他，我不接的多是，也，我说电视上我别去打你呢，我不接的小嘛，都那点我你别去打嘛，但过程你都很少的，我不接的看的是点嘛，西边呢，还是别打嘛都来不了，对。
So we talk about the 8 categories, right? And these 8 categories, and in each of the category, it has its own main object of indications or main objects of expressions. So then, like for example, this first chapter. So first chapter, its main objects of expressions is the exalted knower of all aspects, right? So if someone were to ask you, so does it mean that the first chapter does not include the rest of the categories? So the answer is no. Sorry, does not include the rest of the categories, then the answer is no, because the first chapter includes, even the first chapter includes the rest of the categories. So it's just that its main object of indications is disordered knowers. It doesn't mean that it does not include other categories. So you understand, right? So even though the first chapter mainly talks about disordered knower of all aspects, but it doesn't mean that it does not talk about the rest, the other categories. So it also included the other categories, just that the main object of indications of aspect or expressions is the disordered knower of all aspects. Same for the rest of the categories. Then, so we must know what are these 8 categories. So if we are how say we must memorize or how say at least try your effort to memorize the 8 categories, because in the three monasteries, so if someone were to ask so what are the 8 categories, if the monk cannot answer these questions, then it shows that this person do not study much or do not learn philosophy.
对对，我这对我学的是没不接，他老对我是没不接的，搞的是呢，全部送学习，也不去过的接，搞的是，那那这朗啥吃了，没么的，人对不学，全部送，他们朗啥没不接的小事，全部送学习，你这个去过的接是，那人全部送的人下边那样打对不学的话。
So then if someone were to ask you these questions, what are the 8 categories? Then I'll say then in a very easy way, then you can answer that. The three exalted knowers, 4 applications, and the last one is the resultant truth body, and then totaling 8. So these are the 8 categories.
我的去，他嘛，别人老师他必须要有他的number 决定造成了，当然这不是是 number 你说的，他对兄弟是对嘛，可都去定的了，或者了，兄弟我兄弟的了，那个一是 number 定的，第二的，number 当不上了，对不起，number 九呢，哪地了对不起，number 九啊，我的对嘛需要意思哇。一是 number 你第二的，他number 当不上了，对不起，number 九呢的哇，number 当不上的，是吧？我点把根据点把我点上了，人那么就你，也就是说你，那两地了你那把装啊是，那这当然你这对的话，对吗？我就把学一个公看了。
And so we are on page, referring to the text, and we are on page 11. We are on page 11, then it talks about the 27 aspects of knower of basis. So then, meaning of the text, there are 27 aspects of knower of basis because there are 12 aspects of knower of basis that are supported on the first 3 truths, and 15 aspects of the knower of basis that are supported on the true paths.
他么学的对，当不嘛参不了的，已经那么公平，学了不是身边那就的，他身边是自己，你去了老学是装的，装到去那边去些，对吧？那可得了解个样子，你调了是吧？算我调了，成调了嘛，对嘛对吧？
其实那么公巴起别些了，
觉得身边就对，身边去了老学是装的，装到去那边去也是，对吧？那对我理解起来是么对吧？
I think you. So then the definitions of an antidote to a superimposition that is a wrongly directed superimposition with respect to a phenomenon that is the observed object of a knower of basis in the continuum of a bodhisattva is Bodhisattva's yoga conjoined with the wisdom cultivating an aspect of a knower of basis.
对我老是写的，但以前就写那是吧，对嘛写过，但我以前那多，但以前那的，以前就写那是吧，但我就那么就好几千把个听的东西的吧，都以前写那的青年，那对了嘛，对嘛，有的但你在的，嘛有的，听的多是呢吧，对吧？你写那青年的话，我当嘛有的，对嘛，当嘛说那些那对了，对中啊，那对，那么听的没有，对吧？
So then the definitions of a knower aspects of a knower of basis is an exalted knower in the continuum of an arya, that is an aspect, that is an of cultivations of a knower of basis, and that which abides in the class of Hinayana realizations. So this is the definitions of a knower aspects of a knower of basis. So when it is divided, then there are 27. So for each of the first three truths, so each truth has four aspects, and then that makes 12 aspects, and 15 aspects based on true paths. So 12 plus 15, 27.
我是具体形容说的，具体国际 number 就好几千把杠，天天都是那个具体形容的层面是多少多啊？我到底讲到程序的问题，把小小问呢，啊说你的标准问题，看这个单位都给千把的了，就是说啊，你的标准问题，看这个单位都给千把的，那是形容的意思，是吧？你的标准问题，看这个单位都看这个单位我是都给千把的，是吧？我的一形容的意思了，对。
So the definitions of a knower aspects of a knower of basis is an exalted knower in the continuum of an area that is an aspect, that is an object of cultivation of a knower of basis, and that which abides in a class of Hinayana realizations, right, as you see on the text. So to give an example for a knower aspects of a knower of basis, then the example is exalted knower. An exalted knower directly realizing the selflessness of person in the continuum of a hearer's arhat. I repeat, an exalted knower directly realizing the selflessness of person in the continuum of a hearer's arhat. So that is an illustration of a knower aspect of a knower of basis.
我到底的那天到这里，刚才咱们我是都千把的，我等到的前面的了10年多啊，他以前国际那么就好几千把的没有过，好几千把的人的，是吧？他的天面是多少年把的，他天面多少年把的，我是那些觉得两家嘛，跟我们接去继续是吧？你们到就是刚才咱们都千把的，那好几千把的差点是吧？好几千把的话，到就是千把的话，你们是些嘛对吧？他天面是多少年把的，也是是吧？
So this illustration, an exalted knower directly realizing the selflessness of person in the continuum of a hearer's arhat, is an illustration of a knower aspect of the knower of basis, because it is an exalted knower in the continuum of an arhat, since it is a hearer's arhat. So and then it also abides in the class of Hinayana realizations, and I already explained the reason why. So I will go through it again so that we all will remember it better.
他天面是多少年把的，干的就是天面是多少年把谈到的，谈到你对他就是刚才咱们那千把的天面是多少年把的，也是你比就这个是呢，刚才咱们那千把第一个米把的多的，刚才咱们的话，米把多刚才咱们的话，哦，第一个米把多的，天面老板那就不叫做些个的，也是。
第米把做的刚才咱们
把的在咱们的话，哦，对。那刚才咱们都是千把，我是都是千把是老的，他可能米把是刚才咱们下次说啊，我对这个米把的，天面老板那就不叫做些个的，也是。那天面老板呢，搞的国家米把的刚才咱们的话下次嘛是，我到底国家做些个首长，那叫天面都是米把的，也是。你不要跟你说啊，那咱们都是千把的，天面都是米把的，也是。你比决策的。对米把的，刚才咱们人多啊是，对米把的，天面老板那就过去做计划生长，天面都是米把的人了。
Why do we say that this illustration abides in the class of Hinayana realization? So this definition itself contains two parts, right? So the first part we already showed the suitability of these illustrations. We already showed that this illustration is suitable to be an illustration of a knower aspects of a knower basis, the first part, and then this illustration is also fit in the second part of this definition as well, which is that which abides in the class of Hinayana realizations. So this illustration, an exalted knower directly realizing the selflessness of person in the continuum of a hearer's arhat, abides in the class of Hinayana realizations because its main object of observation is selflessness of person. So just like the illustration, we already say that an exalted knower directly realizing the selflessness of person. So the selflessness of person is the direct is the main object of observation of these exalted knowers. So, and these objects of observations, since these objects of observation, which is the substances of person, is the main object of meditation of those learners Hinayanis, therefore, it abides in the class of Hinayana realizations. So this is the reason why we say that this illustration abides in the class of Hinayana realization, because its main object of observation is selflessness of person. Since its main object of observation since these objects of observation is the main objects of meditation of those learners Hinayanis, therefore it abides in the class of Hinayana realizations.
Sheila, can I ask a question since it's now here? Sheila, selflessness of person is also realized by various in Hinayana, Vaibhashika, Saltantrika, in Mahayana, Chittamatra, Prasangika. Selflessness of person is realized by all. So in this class of Hinayana realization, Kishla emphasized on main meditation object is selfless person. What does class of Hinayana realization in this context refer to? Selfless of person can be selfless person or true assistant, which is Mahayana also included, or selfless person of permanent, unitary, independent, or selfless person of empty of self-sufficient, substantially assistant I. So many selfless person in the Hinayana class as well in our Tenet class. So in this particular context in KB, Noah based which selfless person in the Hinayana realization. This PU.
You're talking about the selflessness of person, and then the selflessness can be the empty of true existence, can be the empty of self-sufficient, substantially existent, and then it can be also empty
permanent, unitary, and
permanent,
independent.
unitary, and independent.
So,
and then, so
right,
which
so
one?
Hinayana realization, class of Hinayana realization in this context means what?
Particularly refers to which one, right?
So my question is actually my question is basically, can Kishila elaborate further class of Hinayana realization, which Kishila emphasized is selfless person of what?
Ini di Kishila yang di kena temin loba namgi tungga zo di kansa ki dame ro di gyumzen di kuwe ro ini di kasa kansa ki dame se di ini yang temin jibu di dogyo mari temin yang dogyo re 대신 yang dogyo res ini yang di Kishila ki yang di kumja zo di sheta ro ini kena kansa ki dame se di dame jang yang karela buaresa karela segiores ini dan tempat tube 동바이나 yana kaza ikata ranga tube 제기 동바이나 양나 ini dia 다지 라왕징이 동바이나 제산이 디 강사기 다음에 강사 측대 가데 ini karela buares
야야 다 등이 말하죠 그거 그래다 맞아 그다음에 그런 나가 나시 대바치기 간다 돼서 동그래 대바치 봐봐 나가 돼서 동그래 되면 나가 동그래스 또다 동그래 해서 그거 와 열에스 이제 봐봐 그거 간다 다음에 또 말이야 되면 나가 이제 봐봐 쓰 동그래스 다 단단히 때 맞아 시야를 가르치나 그래서 그 다음에 또 비니테 다진 비지 쳔바 간다면도 인터넷 쳔바 테믹 도스니 바레스 이런 것이 저거로 와 이미지 도리스네 봐서 되게 단단시고 되게 단단 다 단단시고 되니나 테믹 로바 나지 아주 원샷做的 간사그 다음에 간사 다음에 제고요 예시고 테믹 로바 나지 이 원샷做 제고의 준세 가르치나 저 번시做的 간사그 당기네 당기 내주 Kimi lopa na ji
pangje zo
kansa ke danzi re rwa kansa ke danzi re da kansa ke danzi de pangja zo sheba la de la pa khati jya ke nimbo de kansa ke dame de kansa dame ka nga zo danda ranji ba lu shew de dame de ta je rawa ji to ba de kansa ke dame ra ba re da kansa ke dame chamo de kansa ranja de ji ji de to de
wanda raba de khare
ta je rawa ji to
kesa ta ji rawang ji
o de to de ra pa kansa de ba re tanda kansa ranja de ji ji de to de kansa ke dame chamo ro wa 다 뒤에 공고 그래서 어쨌든 뒤에 공하는 거예요. 아 뒤에 공고에 테메 로바나지 뒤에 가서 티치 바바나지 그래서 다음에 지다 공부 열심히 요 저거래. 그래서 다음에 공부해야 돼. 그래서 다음에 또 봐야 돼. 이나 티치 로바서 그 가서 다음에 공부 좀 쉬고 말이야. 티치 로바나지 가서 다음에 공부 좀 지금 막 뭐지비 전세 가르면서나 티치 로바나지 pon자 做的 된지 시디래. 시디들 언제 밖에 된지 그 시디로 와. 된지 시디로. 어 시디 있어.
pangje zo
혼자 做西地的话，西地的电子的的电子的帮助做就的的，这个年不做的干工作是呢，懂你做，我懂你做工。但对我是切不下的，我懂你的卡萨达没说，我都谈就的这个嘛的，我谈就的这个嘛的，的，这些老板那些，帮助做的开始呢，帮助做的电子的话，电子，
之前
这些老板那些，帮助做的电子。电子的帮下做接不了，他们不是帮你，里面的，他里面的话，我电工下做接不了。但你这老板就这个帮下做的，做头要开始他把的话，做他把头要第一的做他的帮个是，但是他把了把的这些礼拜的看在平时，他把头要把这当地的话，你当地的帮的话，当地的帮了，这看的家做他的公司，这个他们。나 고소 하고 뭐 때문에 로바는 간사 때문에 같이 오지도 제브리에서 때문에 로바는 이제 터자 쪽으로 타바리 좋아 타바다 좀 타바라 같이 진행이 做 그래서 간사를 나왔어 같이 진행이 做 타바터라 같이 진행이 做 그래서 당시에 간사 당시에 타비 자라 님고 做 다르고 그래서 간사 안돼 뭐다디
그래서 아니 공수 때 강사기 남에 라바데 다시 라왕 가서 다시 라왕 징이 대양공 대매바 대양공고래 아니 대 강사기 남에 참모 강사 랑게 투비 제역이 통바 대니가 대 공고로 대니가 공
아나 좋은 간사 다르다 진짜
대조로 그래서 대단히 대 태민기 또리 수 내봤어야 돼 아니 대 남에 강사기 남에 대 공고래 아니 남에 대 대니라 대 자유로 대니라 대 고유로 아니 대 조 강사랑게 돼 강사기 남에랑 아니
그거 보시면 뭐야 맞다 매다 다음에 뭐또 쳔바데로 쳔바데 도리스 내바래로 쳔바데 도리스 내고야 제가 쳔바데 미바做的 테밀로바나지 모자做的테밀 도리스 내바래
대단히 공조대야 대니 조 아니 제 랑게 투비 제역이 동바데 아니 대 조의 공고로
이 공부를 진짜 하고
대단 담매기 된다 담매
이게 로바는데 테밀 로바는데 거자做的 파파리스 봐봐 파파들라 같이 진게做是不是 dances dances的 같이 자기 내부 做 다른 공부는 담에 해서
담에 대단 담매 공야 대 아니 대 강사기 담매 타라니가 대 공고를 조의 대 강사기 담매 타모 공고를 아니 대 대신 로바 있는 대 강사기 담매양 Yeah, so when we talk about the main objects of the main object of attainment for Hinayanis is liberation, right? And in order to attain liberation, the main obstacle to be eliminated is the self-grasping of person. So this self-grasping of person is the main object of abandonment, and that which mainly abandon this, or that which counteract this self-grasping of person is the selflessness of person. So this selflessness of person, Hinayanis, they need to the practitioner, so they need to cultivate the two types of selflessness, and mainly they need to cultivate the subtle selflessness of person. So the coarse selflessness of person is the permanent unitary independent person, the empty of it. and the subtle selflessness of person, which is the main objects of meditation, which is the person lack of the person lack of self-sufficient, substantially existent, lack of self-sufficient, substantially existence. So this person lack of self-sufficient, substantially existent is the subtle selflessness of person, which is the main object of meditation to be cultivated. So besides cultivating even though they also cultivate the core selflessness of person, which is the lack of permanent unitary independent person. However, the main one to be cultivated or meditated on is lack of self-sufficient, substantially existent person, lack of self-sufficient, substantially existence.
오, 나무 거다 해버려. 걔네 러바는지 도자 쓰고 가래 나무들 누가 저거 찌른다. 이 말로 해서. 걔네 러바는지 도자 쓰고 가래 해서. 아빠를 해서. 못들려.
So the main object of attainment for learners, Hinayanis, is liberation.
쳐봐 그야라 빠지지게 뒷바 쓰고 가래 해서. 뉴디데스. 뉴디 강가 단지 와 간다. 강가 단지 데스. 강가 단지 데스. 빠지지게 좋지.
뉴디
가봐도 빠지지게 좋고 가서는 뉴디 강가 단지 데스.
And the main obstacles that obscures the learners, Hinayanis, to achieve liberation is the self-grasping of person, which is an afflictive obscuration.
다 빠지지게 또 단지데 어떻게 그냥 또 그래서 강가기 담에.
So in order to counteract the self-grasping of person, so one cultivates the selflessness of person.
어디? 티첼로반나지 도자 쪽으로 가르치는 탄지시마. 티첼로반 도자 쪽으로 가르치는 탄지시마. 산지시 공부하더라. 탄지시 받으리스. 티첼로반 도자 쪽으로 가르치는 탄지시마.
So the main object of attainment for learners Mahayanists is the exalted knower of all, or the omniscience.
탄지시마 도발을 빠지진 게 쪽으로 가르치나 비단지. 시티데스 딘지. 나도 딘지로 오라. 딘지로
랑교바.
딘지로 오라. 탄지시마 도발을 빠지진 쪽으로 가서 딘지네스.
And the main obstacles that obscures them from achieving the exalted knower of all or omniscience, according to Svatandika Madhyamaka, is the true graspings of phenomena, which is the knowledge obscurations.
딘지데 빠지지야 또 딘지데 카티자 그냥 또 가르고 그래서 오니 그래. 얘네 보고 와. 지 담에 보고 와. 지 담에 보고 해. 근데 지내고 그 때문에 이제 로바나지 가서 담에 보니 또 쉬고 못 와. 이 로바는 우리 뭐지 또 쉬고 못 와. 인생들이다.
거다 양겨 한마디.
그거 못 들어. 이제 로바는 그 담에 보고 그래 뭐지 또 되고 말이야. 뭐지 왜 인생 가래 다 하고서 다 여성인 봐.
반사기 당진디 그래서 산다수
이제 로바나지.
어떻게
로바나지.
반사기 당진.
지 동반이게 건주도 지그래. 지 담에 보지도 지그래. 가르치네서 이제 로바나지 토자 쪽으로 단지 전반이. 이 전반을 빠지진 게 또 가르치면 기기 시작할 딘지로 와. 어디 단지로 와. 딘지인데
랑교바이나 비비 딘지로 와.
어디 이래서
지단이 디카디자라 아니 디공주 공대조디 디 동이 하나 그게 양아치 다음에
어디로 집어넣어.
베지레스. So in order to counteract the main obstacle, which is the true grasping of phenomena, which is knowledge obscurations. So their main objects of meditation is emptiness, or selflessness of phenomena, or a lack of true existence, or non-truly existence. So all these are mutually inclusive. So this is according to Svanandika Madhyamaka. So that which mainly obscure them from achieving the exalted knower of all is the true graspings of phenomena. So in order to counteract this, so their main objects of meditation is the emptiness, or a lack of true existence, or the selflessness of phenomena.
yes. Teaching loba kaza dame gomba yosna yores logore.
teaching loba.
Teaching loba so kaza dame gomba yosna yores. Yores de gonja tso shigo mares. Keme loba no de tomani gomba yores na yores. Oni gomba yores.
Su tham.
Keme loba na shi.
Atemen.
Keme loba so oni gomba yores na yores. Oni gonji to chige de chige mares. Ah boson. Keme loba ge oni gomba yores na yores. Oni gonji to chige de chige mares. 이제 로바는 이제 가사 다음에 공부 열에 가사 다음에 또 공부 되게 제가 말해. 다 단답 시에서 봐.
Yeah, so learners, Mahayanis, today, do learner Mahayanis meditate on the selflessness of person? They do meditate on selflessness of person, just that they do not take it as the main object of meditation. Similarly, those learners, Hinayanis, do they meditate on emptiness? Yes, they do meditate on emptiness. It's just that they do not take it as a main object of meditations. So the meaning has already explained.
Oh, that is not what you said. You understand?
But Geshila, but the boundary, no, base also include Arya, Mahayana as well, and Arya Buddha. All Arya. So they are, why become main Arya, Mahayana Arya also included in this boundary of our Noah base. So they are not doing Hinayana realization, so they are not focusing. What one say? Noah base also include all Aryas.
Yeah, so all Aryas, then you mean that they also includes the Mahayana Aryas, they also include Arya Buddha, right?
Correct. So Geshe-la said they are not emphasizing on selflessness of person. But why in the definition this must be selflessness of person?
Okay, so even though Mahayana or Arya Buddha, those learners Mahayanis, so then they meditate on selflessness of person. However, it is not the main object of meditation, right?
Yes.
Then why in the definition it says that that abides in the class of Hinayana realizations, and the boundaries it includes all ayas. Is that your question? Is this your question?
Since they are not emphasizing on the selflessness of person, they focus more on selflessness of phenomena.
Yeah, ini 같은 시시에 참디요로 해라. 시시 참이나 디 파바 탐지로. 파바 선탐이나 디 파바 탐지리스.
바바 참아 길어요.
파바 참아기 줄라 요로와. 파바 참아기 줄라 요레스. 이니 디 파바 참아기 줄라 요바. 디 랍고베 규젠데 카리나 사이즈나 디 시시기 체이 나로라 디 테미기 또리스 요바. ini dia teaching loba taboina ini kungsu kasaki dame di 공자 조 말was kungsu ki 공자 조 말is 다르긴의 양 바바 탐지 ki gyula yowas di lawaris
이제 바바 타다 길어 요래 로가지데 바바 참아 길어 간다 담이 모습이 제발 요래스.
간다이 다음에
간다 담이 모습이 제발 줄라 매게 바바 찌요 말이스.
그래서도 보고
간다 담이 모습 바바니나 길라 간다 담이 모습이 제발 요 저그래스 요 그래스. 파파 이 시절에 그 가장 되는 것도 제발 내게 요 말했어.
그래서 이 담임 것도 또 비킨 말.
내게 줄요 말했어. 내가 매번 선자때 이 시대 파파 타방기가 요스라고 했어.
So the reason of saying its boundaries are that it exists in the continuum of all aryas is because as long as one is an arya, then there is no as long as so as long as one is an arya, then they must have this. 남인군수도 또 백해마대 요로.
제발 요래. 진짜 빨리 시켜 가다 남인군수 또 그랬어. 빨리 시켜라. 가다 남인군수 또 와서 자. 그 분위기가 가다 남인군수 제발 요래서.
Yeah, so an arya must directly realize the selflessness of person. So this is the reason why its it says that its boundaries are that it exists in the continuum of all Aryas because an Arya must realize directly the selflessness of person. So because of being an Arya must realize directly the selflessness of person. Therefore, it says that it exists in the continuum of all Aryas. So there is no Arya does not directly realize the selflessness of person.
그런 거 도박이 시에서다. 그런 거 이시 빌라요나 다 이시를 공부도 도박을 해야. 나 상지 파비 빌라 이시 요레스.
시시 이거라
이시 빌라요나 이시 또 뭔지 또写고 말해스. 상지 파비 빌라. 상지 파비 지지 가서 다음에 것도 또 쳔바데 이시를 상지 파비 빌라 이시 요레스. 이시를 상지 파바데 또 이시 공자 또 이시로 공들을 때 누구 말해스. 와. 뭐 누구 말해스. 맞죠? 이시기 미나도 뭔지 또 지그래 저거 밑에 로바트기 산지 파비지 지 여러와 산지 파비지 가자 담이 넣어서 이시 되게 미나 또데 밑에 로바가 뭔지 또 그래 내 제주도 산지 파바 코라게 이시 뭔지 또 제그래서 내 말에
동다니 디상기 파베 규기 시시의 요로와
이시 여러와
시시의 요레데 이 대시시의 공제 조어의 제오 말이스
산지 파바 코라게 이시 뭔지 또 제고 말해스
생이 봐봐 시시 공제 조어
산지 파비지라 이시 요래 가르나 산지 파비지 가자 담이 넣어서 또 쳔바지 여러와 이시레스 이시에서다 거기 이시 산지 파비지 가자 담이 넣어서 진짜 이시 되게 미마 또데 뭔지 또 챙기기 때문에 김에로 봐 요래 김에로 봐 요왔습니다 산지 파비지 이시를 김에 도스니 말이에요 산지 파비지 이시 김에 도스니 말와 이시로와 이제 신자라 태밀 보스네마 인고래.
이니 그래서 이 담보 있는 디상기 법의 규기 규라 이니 디시주 요리데 이니 요리 이니 디시시 공제 조어의 제오 말이스.
산지 파바 그런 게 이시 오시도 제고 말이스.
상기 봐봐. 상기 봐봐 랑기 공제 조어.
공제 조어스나 기 제고 말이스 시에. 안자 수도 길라 시에서는 수도 이시 오시도 제고 말이스. 안자 수익 길라 수도 이시 여바이나 안자 아니 이시 오시도 제고 말이스.
That's all. Yeah. So then, Geshe-la said that I understand your I understand why you ask these questions or where you are coming from. So you might thinking that was it it exists in the continuum in whose mind or in whose continuum these a number of bases exist. So it is not necessarily for that person to take the number of bases as the main object of meditation. So I repeat, in whose continuum the number of bases exists does not necessarily mean that for that person takes this number of bases as the main object of meditation. So, like for example, number of bases exist in the continuum of an Arya Buddha. So, however, it is not necessarily for Arya Buddha to take number of bases to be the main object of meditation.
오pen 정세 파비지지 정세 로바 파바 여러 정세 파비지지 시요레스.
네, 정세 파비규기.
정세 파비지라 시요레스. 나 정세 파바티지 그런 지지도 뭔가 좀 지게도 지금 말해스.
네, 정세 파비규 기지라.
여러
기라 아니 기지요.
정세 파바 그런 시도 뭔가 좀 지게도 지금 말해스.
Yeah. So similarly, number of bases exist in the continuum of an Arya Bodhisattva. However, it's not necessarily for an Arya Bodhisattva to take the number of bases as the main object of meditation.
Thank you, Geshe-la.
Yeah. That's this number is getting about the share. This number is getting that number is getting that. But about Demba Tambo so like yeah, until a Jangas and is getting to what the market is.
Yeah. So we talk about the divisions of a knower aspects of a knower of bases. So when it's divided, then they are 27. So for each, for the first 3 truths, so each truth has 4 aspects and 15 aspects based on true paths. So we are going we are going to talk about the 27 aspects. So the first is established because they are 4 aspects, realizing the 4 aspects of true sufferings. So the 4 aspects of true sufferings are impermanent, suffering, empty, and selfless. And then to give an illustration for this, the first aspect of true suffering is impermanent. So in order to realize impermanent, then we link it to an illustration or link it to a base, and then, for example, an appropriated aggregate. So in appropriated aggregates, an inappropriated aggregate is impermanent because it is occasionally produced. So we in order to realize the impermanence, then we link it to a base, and then the base, for example, an appropriate aggregate. So the subject in an appropriate aggregate is impermanent because it is occasionally produced. Yeah. So because of this reason, or through this reason, then one realized that appropriated aggregate is impermanent. And then the second aspect of true suffering is suffering. So using the same example, an appropriate aggregate. So in appropriate aggregate is suffering. So is suffering means that it is in the nature of suffering. So it is in the nature of suffering because it is overpowered by karma and afflictions. So since it is overpowered by karma and afflictions, therefore it is in the nature of suffering. So therefore, so then in order to realize suffering, the second aspect of true suffering, then we link it to an example, as mentioned just now, an appropriate aggregate. So an appropriate aggregate, the subject, an appropriate aggregate is suffering, or in the nature of suffering, because it is overpowered by karma and afflictions. So anything is overpowered by karma and afflictions is necessarily in the nature of suffering.
number Hindus, then she dug to the number. Then she took a dog to the number in Jesus Kasna. One job with that, then she never. Then was one job without the tension about this or one job with that, then she never is. The one job without tension never soon as then she dug to my Hindus. What do you have to do? What do you have to do?
Yeah, so we think about how did we realize it through thinking about the reason. So just like same for the impermanent and same for the suffering. So then we come to the third aspect of true suffering. It is empty. So an appropriated aggregate is empty of factually other self. So the unappropriated aggregate is empty of factually other self, because factually other self that is a master does not exist. So in order to realize the third aspect of true suffering, which is empty, then we link it to the example, the unappropriated aggregate. So the subject, an appropriated aggregate, is empty of factually other self, because factually other self, which is master, does not exist.
That is about how to that is about the dam about it. I need to move the Gajan. He put it. That may be number is. That may be number he said. Because now, as long as what was, the only dog more Maduas. That's the only dog more Madu said. That may be number one. The only dog more Madu said that Yamarwa. That may be number two. But that did she did it. Wrong touch all Maduas. That's only dog more Maduas that never into us. What? That never reduce.
And similarly, in order to realize the fourth aspect of true suffering, which is selfless, then the same example and the subject and appropriated aggregate is selfless, because entity of self by way of its own power is not established. So the subject and appropriated aggregate is selfless, because entity of self by way of its own power is not established. Since the entity of self by way of its own power is not established, the self does not exist, selfless.
What did you that not to be tough that Dunga did keep it hidden. Mikaba, Dunga, Dameba, Shipo, as it was. You should keep another number, 13. Company 13. Shipo Sarda, 13. His number is 13. That she was Sarwa. I did not to put the number. I think you never the Joe, Window, Rajin, Chase, Shirwa, Stashima, Radiant Jagan, the share.
So we have already covered the four aspects of true sufferings, or four builds of true sufferings. They are impermanent, suffering, empty, and selfless. So among the 27, we have already covered the first four. And then next we are going to talk about the four aspects, realizing the four aspects of true origins. And the four aspects or four attributes of true origins are cause, origin, strong production, and condition.
All this. Also, the Kunju of that, Niba, Demba Niba, Kunju Demba, Inju Demba, that Joe, Rashi, in Joe Kunju, Raji, Shirwa, Shilman, Risterwa.
So the four aspects of true origins are cause, origin, strong production, and condition.
This is the one. I'm not the Mopi, my shouting. Jukela, you're not only not to later sepa. I do not get it, not to you. Later sepa, so I later sepa, a chichi.
Leniba de Rogla. They do ye later.
I later sepa, I later sepa de, and that three number. You was a three number he never. Give about Jurwa. Three number is the individual say Garsna. Randi Dunga Chitsawari, Dunga Chichi, Dunga Chitsaw. The Dunga di Chichi, that you don't meddle later separate. The Dunga Chitsawari was a Dunga Chitsaw, he said Shingila, Jui number. Dunga Jui, need to channel. Oh,
So again, to realize the four aspects of true origins, then to give an example, the karma link and craving link, there are divisions of 12 links of dependent arising. So 12 links of dependent arising, the second one is the karmic formation, right? So in other words, is karma. And then another one is craving. So these two are two links of 12 links of dependent arising. So the subject, karma or craving, there are divisions of 12 links. So they are cause, they are causes. So they are causes because they are the root of suffering. The second aspect of true origin is origin. So origin also has the meaning of giving rise again and again, or produce again and again. So similar example, karma and craving, there are divisions of 12 links are origins because they produce its result suffering again and again. So it's true that karma and afflictions, they again and again produces its result, which is suffering.
지지 손방 가서 근주대로 있나? 손바 들어와라, 지 들어와라, 지서 어디. 다 텐디 예를 넣기를 내가 세바데 아랍지 레스 지 넘바. 랍지 넘바 시작은 주세가 아 란데 동안 슈다 지지레스. 이거 다들 제바다 슈다 먹게 잘 와. 란데 동안 슈다 지지 송자 라지 넘바. 예스다 지지 돼서 와. 라지 넘바 시작. 예스.
So the third aspect of true origin is strong productions. So literally, it also means that it's strongly produced. So karma and craving, there are divisions of 12 links. Their divisions of 12 links are strong productions because they strongly produce its result suffering.
This one. 안타마들다. 이게 도마는 봐야 말해. 찌들어와. 찌들어 간다. CBC바데 들어와. 여기는 CBC바요와. 이제 CBC바데 어째 넘바 해셔야 이 넘바 힘 주제 가서 뭔데 뭔가 인지 실지. 뭔가 인지 실지에 의해서와. 뭔가 인지 실지 이 방송자 다 간다. 한지 넘바 해셔야 돼서 다 군지 되지 하마산다. 좋아.
So the last aspect of true origin is conditions. So, for example, the craving of existence. So the craving of existence is a condition because it is a cooperative conditions of suffering. So the craving of existence, the subject, the craving of existence is a condition because it is a cooperative condition of suffering.
아마도 다 동아대 막 근데 많이가 더 살다. 다 근데 다 넘버는 이자디노라. 이제로 살다. 이자디노로와. 이자디노 제로 살로와. 다 내가서 디마 디오마라. 아까 닉사 자니 마 디오마로와. 우마디 뚱지 마 디오마로와. 오디 마 디오마레스. 디마도 다 고디 넘버 시디마. 시아레스로와.
So out of 27, we have already covered 8 aspects. So then the rest are the aspects in relation to the true cessations and true paths.
당아도 고디 넘버 다 고디 넘버 담보디 시시고다. 다 고바 시와 야누 주주시로와. 어디 담보디 시시고라. 고바 시와 야누 인주 시시와 디시와 담보.
So then the 4 aspects, realizing the 4 aspects of true cessations. The 4 aspects of true cessations are cessation, pacification, sublimity. Sublimity is also translated as excellence and definite emergence.
뭐 담보도 거기는 나마 도봉 거 봤을 때와 아들 망아 소에 피시오지 아 님비 또지 동아 띠시비 자와 아 님비 또지 동아 띠시비 자와데 아 고비 나바 시샤디에서 고비 나바 예스 아 고비 나바 지 님비 주제 가르스나 다 등에 pombe 자와레스 다 등에 pombe 자와인자디 땅 고대 이거다 간다 고비 나바로와 고비 나바 이거 등에 pombe 자와 아래도 예수가 아 고비 나바레도 오사 수니 보죠.
So then the first one is cessation, right? So the first aspect of true cessation is cessation. So to give an example, the subject, separation, that is an utter exhaustion of suffering by the power of antidote. So this separation that is an utter exhaustion of suffering by the power of antidote is a cessation. So it is a cessation because it is a cessation that suffering has abandoned. So it is a cessation in which the suffering has abandoned.
어디 이제 나도 고파 쉬어 들어와. 어디 너가 니가 쉬어 들어와. 쉬어 들 간다디 시고래. 이미도 누구한테 집에 나와대. 지 나와서. 쉬어 너무 쉬어 들어와. 이 나와지. 예. 이 나와니 주제 가서 너무 pombe 좋아했어. 너무 pombe 좋아. 나 그 어디 차 들어와. 바로 너무 pombe 좋아서다. 나 시 나와. 예스. 이 상담다 너무 pombe 좋아서다 다 시 나와 이거 무슨. 좋아서는 너무 쉬어서 뭐로 와.
And the second aspect of true cessation is pacification. So pacification here also refers to the pacifications of afflictions. So the subject, using the same example, the subject separation that is an utter exhaustions of suffering by the power of antidote. So is a pacification. So separation that is an utter exhaustion of suffering by the power of antidote is a pacification because it is a separation that affliction has abandoned, or in which the affliction has abandoned.
고바도 가마지마다 하야 말아. 아니 이모도 하야 말아. 고바 가마도 고바 쉬와. 고바 쉬와 자는 인도 말해. 로아. 고바 쉬와 자는 인도 로아. 아니 인도도 하야 말아.
나숨바.
숨바잖아. 아니 숨바로와. 근데 이거 댄스비 자와 들어와. 아니 집이도 누가 댄스비 자와 돼. 안다 디레스와. 아 잔노비 넘바. 로아. 잔노비 넘바 이거 지대 가서 잔노비 넘바지 저我집에 타봐. 힘받아 네 집에 타봐 있어. 와. 근데 집에 타봤으나 잔용만 된다 되고 고도. 근데 집에 타봐지. 근데 집에 타봤으나 잔용만 되네서. 어디?
The third aspect of true cessation is sublimity. So the subject separation that is an utter exhaustion of suffering by the power of antidote is a sublimity because it is a liberation in the nature of benefit and happiness. So because it is in the nature of benefit and happiness, therefore is sublimity or sublime or excellent.
어디? 아시바 담아들만 와. 고박이 담아들면 인도 들어와. 근데 님비도 동아 댄스비 나와디. 안다. 이쪽에 담아. 들어와. 네번째 넘버 시작 주다. 라모도비. 라모도비. 이네스가. 라모도비. 근데 라모도비 타바서 따라야 돼. 도와요 말은 와 돼. 먼저 가서 다좀 마마 또 빨리 냥아요 마시고 와. 다좀 또 빨리 냥아요 말이세. 맞아. 나 지모로 와. 지다 원내디 봐. 원마 제가 뭐 수기 같은 거 본도 냥마시 열로 와. 내가 들리 매로 다 본도 냥마요 말이야.
이제 뭐네 데 냥아요 마.
뭐 냥마시 열로. 어다데 안다. 아타바데 라모도비. 있어. 또 말이에요. 다 타바데 더 차이 신기라. 뭐 간단해요. 그거 파 냥도 그다. 냥도 계속.
Yeah. And the fourth aspect of true cessation is definite emergence. So same, the separation which is an utter exhaustion of suffering by the power of antidote is a definite emergence because it is an irreversible liberation. The separation, which is an utter exhaustion of suffering by the power of antidote, is a definite emergence because it is an irreversible liberation. So this liberation or attainment of liberation is irreversible. So means that it will not fall from if one has already attained the realizations of an arhat, then one will not fall from this realization. So if one has already attained liberation, one will not fall from this liberation. So, and this explanation is according to Mahayanists, and this is not according to Hinayanists, which is the Vaibhashika, who say that, or who propounds that, even if one has already achieved liberation, one can still fall from the liberation.
Demba Tambosuna, Jesu Tunis in Rosetta. That is big number Hitadino, Tatuni Dosarua.
So we have already covered first, how's it, four for each of the first three truths. So we have already covered 12 aspects. So remaining 15 aspects.
That one is number Jonga. That one is number Jonga, and the Kotu Dimati Nedroa. And the Shuda Nijashi Shigumare. And the Nigol Matimati Roa.
The Nibalare.
Oh, the.
So then we will talk about the remaining 15 aspects of true paths. So these remaining 15 aspects of true paths, then we will refer to page 10, or as if you search in the PDF, then page 12. If you refer to physical text, then it's page 10. So start from here, the classification of the supported aspects. Yeah, so regarding the 173 aspects of application in complete aspects, so if we are able to understand all of them, then that's very excellent. So even if we are unable to understand the meaning of these 173 aspects in the application of complete aspects, then at least hearing it or listening to it leave a good imprint in us. Regarding these aspects in relation to the Four Noble Truths, so since it's very common and easy to understand, so I believe that you have no problem understanding it. So classifications of the supported aspects. So classification of the supported aspects is divided into three. The first one is division into 4, the second division into 5, and the third one division into 6.
Oh, the Dinson show the Dinson Tambu, she was in the Dinson, he was. That she the Karsna, needed in your Tonas, I mean, she is a dinner. You need Nimbo. That needed in your Tonas, I mean, she is in the Dimaship. That needed in your Tonas, I mean, she. That the Marination. Oh, dear.
So then, the first division is division into 4. So this 4 refers to the 4 uncontaminated paths of seeing that are antidotes to afflictive obscuration. So this division into 4, the 4 refers to 4 uncontaminated paths of seeing that are antidotes to afflictive obscuration.
你的那个通常上面其实在这边的可多多啊，咱们的那个是这里，中国的写包包买巴当，写包包买巴当，包包买巴当，多啊，没平当吧是，第些我说不是嘛这样有啊，你是哇，那这些跟嘛讲的学会，那等那个电视机里，那个电视，那是没什么，那个电视机里，有啊。
So so in order to indicate the four aspects that exist on the first uncontaminated path from among those three paths, Haripadra's clear meaning. So these words are from Haripadra's clear meaning. So it says, regarding those for the first, the four aspects of non-agent, non-knower, non-transference, and non-taming. So are respectively the characteristics of path and so forth.
那当部的我都对的，当部写报告没把是那么多啊，那写报告没把时候呢，那写报告马上给他没把多的，我那啥没事，那当部的想写报告，写报告马上给他的，写报告马上给他没把多的，我那啥没事，那啥没事，你们我那啥没事讲有啊，我那啥没事呢，然后写报告没把是吧，写报告马上给他没，写报告马上给他没把多的，我那啥没，我那啥没继续。目的，写报告是吧？第六的，
So we already mentioned that this four refers to the four uncontaminated paths of seeing that are antidotes to afflictive obscurations, right? So this first aspect is non-agent or the non-existence of agent. So this first uncontaminated path in relation to non-agent is the path of seeing, directly realizing the self of person of agent does not exist. So I repeat, the path of seeing, directly realizing that the self of person of agent, the self of person of agent does not exist.
我记得啊，那当我写报告看到当面都被通了上面是的话，通了上面，那你把这写报告没把成，对吧？就是几点的话，写报告没把成，那写报告没的，通上面当面都通了上面上，当多今年写报告的时间的那个，当多久啊？当多今年，写报告看上面当面把多的通了上面，哇，我的当多今年，写报告看上面当面把多的上面通了上面是，那的你把的。Then
the second is non-knower. So non-knower can also be translated as a non-existence of knower or knower doesn't exist. So in relation to this, then the path of seeing, directly realizing the self of person of knower, who knows the objects of adoptions and abandonment does not exist. So the path of seeing, directly realizing that the self of person of knower, who knows the object of adoptions and abandonment, does not exist. So then the third aspect is non-transference. So non-transference can also be translated as transferer does not exist or non-existence of transferer.
다 간다 네 셰법 코브 메바스와데 와 구마리아 코비 컨사크 다메 바토비 통라사메스 와 랑 구마리아 코비 컨사크 다메 바토비 통라사메스 스코디시
이 상마데 페이나 공다기라 이 상마 페이나
그때 뭐 레리를 뭐 잡으라
이 페이마
님보 니디 님보 사마다 니디 님보 잡으라
나서
니디 님보 잡으라
So the path of seeing, directly realizing, non-agent, non-knower, non-transference, and non-taming, they are all the antidotes to afflictive obscurations. So the third one is non-transference, right? So non-transference can also be translated as non-existence of the transferer, or the transferer does not exist. So the path of seeing, directly realizing that the self of person of transfer to higher path does not exist. And this is an antidote to afflictive obscuration. And the fourth one is non-taming. So non-taming can also be translated as non-existence of tamer, or the tamer does not exist.
다들 돈다 가르쳐서나 뉴무 도와비 간사 그다음에 방문스 그 통나서 메세 도와 한 뉴무 도와비 간사 그다음에 봐 또비 무슨 또비 통나서 메세 때 통나서 미 시를 거다다.
So and the fourth one is non-taming, right? So it can also be translated as non-existence of tamer, or the tamer does not exist. So the path of seeing directly realizing that the self of person of affliction tamer does not exist. I repeat, the path of seeing directly realizing that the self of person of affliction tamer does not exist. And this is an antidote to afflictive obscuration.
대시고데 가서 걸마자다. 이거 민지질라 가자고. 와. 나 이거 민지 시시요. 여기 지시 봐. 와.
당연히 람기 때마 람기 남아 시디로.
시와.
이 몰라 당연히 좀.
아주 시야 맞다. 자기 맞다 로디로와. 그거 들어와 가서 니디니 뭐 통화 상에 시바가 간다 담도 또 통화 상에 지와. 그래래니 마. 뭐 시더라. 지리는 맞자와나. 그래래니 나 리바 인지 시 레레니 말이에서. 와. 레레니 마.
이 성어의 넘버지와.
레레니. 아까 무슨 말이니? 런치. 넘버 시요와. 넘버 나 리바 인지 시요와. 15 말이네. 나 거르시는 말이네. 자기에서.
So and then the four aspects of path. So four aspects of true paths. So each truth, the true suffering has four aspects, and similar to truth origin, true cessation, and true path. So each of them has four aspects. So similarly, the true path has four aspects as well, and the four aspects are path, suitability, achievement, and definite emergence. So path, suitability, achievement, and definite deliverance. So these are the four aspects of true paths: path, suitability, achievement, and definite deliverance. So just now the four path of seeing, directly realizing, the agent, knower, transferer, and tamer. So each of them, respectively, they are path, suitability, achievement, and definite deliverance.
So, 간다 되는다. 담보대 니디시네 뭐 통화 삼매집 지기노 담보 개법에 간다게 다음에 봐도 통화 삼매 데려와. 통화 삼매데 란지 넘버 기자데 란지 넘버 인디 와. 란지 버드바 니디시와. 란지 넘버 인데 이 주제 가스나 거 데버시비 란지 리스네 봐. 하버드베 란지 예스. 거 데버시비 란. 하버레 데버시비 란지 리스네 봐. 로도와. 오다 타버 데버시비 란지 예스 거도 거단 저쪽으로 하버 데버시비 란소자 야 간다. 란지 넘버 예스. 우리 넘버 신호 담보 란지 넘버 들어와. 란지 넘버 인데 슈퍼 데버시비 란. 야 간다. 쉐바부 간다 다음에 봐. 또비 통화 삼매데 하버 데버시비 란 차대로와. 어디리 예스 된다. 란지 넘버 인데 괜찮지.
하버 주지기 넘버.
하버 주지기 란 예스.
So the first one is the path of seeing, or the uncontaminated path of seeing, directly realizing the self of person of agent does not exist. So this is a path. So this is a path because it is a path that acts to progress to liberation. Because it is a path that acts to progress to liberation, or travel to liberation.
아니 이바데 가서 셰법이 간다가 다음에 봐도 통화 삼매시와. 이바 들어와. 이바 셰법이 간다가 다음에 봐도 통화 삼매데 리피 넘버 란지 리바 란지 넘버 이바와. 리피 넘버. 인데 자데 나 녀무 비문이 예스 녀무 비문이 와 녀무 비문이 우리 예스 다데
문예시
녀무 비문이 엘라 들어와. 녀무 비문이 예스. 그래서 나 리피 넘버 예스.
So the path of seeing, directly realizing that the self of person of knower does not exist. So is suitability. So it is a suitability because it is direct. It is a direct antidote to afflictions. Repeat, the uncontaminated or the path of seeing directly realizing that the self of persons of knower does not exist is suitability because it is a direct antidote to affliction.
Sumba 들어와. 이봐 들어와.
Sumba
sumba 들어와. sumba 간다. 랑 도마라 보아비 간사 기타 메바 또비. 다 도나 사메 들어와. 이 도나 사메데 다 두비 나봐. 다 랑디 나봐 sumba 들어와. 두비 나봐 기야데 신지 니로 신지 말로바 두비 랑레스 간다. 신지 니로 신지 말로바 두비 랑 들어와. 신지 니로 신지 말로바 두비 랑레스 간다. 다 신지 니로 신지 말로바 두비 랑레스 간다.
And the path of seeing directly realizing that the self of person of transferer to higher path does not exist. And it is an achievement because it is a path that accomplishes unmistakably the modes of abiding of the mind. So the path of seeing directly realizing that the self of person of transfer to higher path does not exist. And this is an achievement because it is a path that accomplishes unmistakably the modes of abiding of the mind.
시바들에 간다. 다 시바들 예문 도업이 간사 답이 도다면서 다 도나 사면 들어와. 예문 도업이 간사 다음에 방법스도비 도나 사면에 이번 님이 넘버레스. 이번 님이 넘버 이번 주제 가르스나 동화 댄스의 시비 랑레스 다 동화 생기 랑레와. 동화 댄스의 시비 랑레스. 이 순자 이번 님이 넘버레스라고 다. 랑 이번 시대시를 말이래 이제 좋아.
And the path of seeing directly realizing that the self of persons of affliction tamer does not exist, and it is a definite deliverance, which is the fourth aspect of path. So it is a definite deliverance because it is a path that utterly exhausts suffering. So the path or the uncontaminated path of seeing directly realizing that the self of person of affliction tamer does not exist is a definite deliverance because it is a path that utterly exhausts suffering.
어디시로와? 나딩아서 도나 사메시르다 안도 데도사로와. 도나 사메시르만 도사리. 다 롬지 거두고. 다나도 니바데 다다 시여와서 도사 다나이 와서 신도와. 덴세 니바 나이 와서. 나이 와서 시디지 네고 고나스 찡나서 디시고. 시디지 네고 고나서 찡.
So we have already covered the four uncontaminated path of seeing, so which is here it's division into four. So we have already covered the four uncontaminated path of seeing. So then we will go to the second outline, which is division into five. So division into five refers to the five contaminated paths of meditation that are antidotes to knowledge obscurations. So the five here refers to the five contaminated path of meditation that are antidotes to knowledge obscuration.
나도 시디지 네고서 말 넣어도 돼. 고나 사진아 시고도와. 어디 리레네 말와. 나 마시오게 다등아서 시로 되는 거 봐. 나도 다들 한치밖에 되다 너무 시키서 시고와. 그 한치밖에 시로 되는 거 봐. 킬리고 막 딱한다. 내주지고 오만 한치밖에 시고와. 내주지고 오만 한치봐. 맞아 한치밖에 니 시고와. 막 내주지고 오만 한치밖에 내주지고 오만 한치밖에 니 시고와. 난 내주지고 오만 한치밖에 시로 되는 거 봐. 킬리고 말와. 내주지고 오만 한치봐.
Ni killing you, man.
시대 킬리고 말. 시대 킬리고 말이 아까다 시내데 ponja리 예스로 오라 시로 되도 봐. 시로 되도 봐다. ponja리 시로 되도 봐 지금 또 봐. ponja리 예스로 오라. 아 시로 되도 봐. 수고 내모 기제 시고 다 간다. 와. 시로 되도 봐. 지금 또 봐. 수고 봐. 내모 기제 시고. 아 히디스나 들으셔고.
So this division into five, then these five refers to five contaminated path of meditations, right? So, and then and this explanation, this ornament for clear realization, and the explanations is according to the Svadantika Madhyamaka. So for Svadantika Madhyamaka, is divided into two. One is Saudrantika Svadantika Madhyamaka. Another one is Yogacara Svadantika Madhyamaka. Then Yogacara Spadadika Madhyamika do not accept external objects. So previously we talked about the external objects or the establishment as external objects. So Yogacara Spadadika Madhyamika, they do not assert external objects. So, and for them, they are objects of abandonment. So we are going to talk about antidotes to this to these objects of abandonment.
그럼 저는 도와주나 지금 사서 말고 돼. 도와주나 시장시로 도와주나 지 사자 있어. 이거도 내가 인생님도와 내가 요와도 두여와 되면 진짜 제말만 쉬나로. 예, 진짜 제말만 쉬 이마산 쉬나. 그래서 같이 도와주나로.
So before I talk about the division into 5 and division into 6, so I'm thinking maybe I'll stop here, and then if you have any question, then you can ask now.
Geshe-la, could Geshe-la elaborate on how these things that we have gone through help us in our practice? The relevance of, knowing all this information, which is a lot of information, how does it help us in our practice? Appreciate if Geshe-la could elaborate a little bit on that. Thanks.
咱那个我做的，内出点说你的下的，你上面的内容，因为在内出下的，你讲养忙不有了，内出的养忙不有的，因为的做的养领，你看上做的养领看的的偏一些少，因为在内出的偏外呢，因为做的养领看的偏一些是的，是来给的是给不能。
那这个是哪里的？你评估的地方，这个的，你们是跟这些讲解的多的。那么你们是的，这些我都这个前面老板那些公司做的效果的，很多地方是联邦系的，联邦系的讲的嘛，讲解讲的效果多啊，联邦系的讲解讲的效果的，那地方是效果的，那年龄级公布的那个是背下的，东外地方嘛，当包就年龄级公布的，叔叔让这个年龄级公布的嘛，上当不多啊，叔叔让这个年龄级公布的，那叔叔让这个就年龄级公布的，让他没大别东西，说没大别东西这个意思。 那没代表人是另外是吧？代表人是看今年的是那人家叫的，人家老板的，人家你把等地用东西，没代表人就是没地把人都是，是吧？没地把人都是吧？没地把人都，人家身上是说的，说没代表人。我说说没代表了，上当的，刚当没那么说的，你们既然说没代表人家上了嘛，当把人家全部人是吧？当没那么说吧？你们既然 说嘛，大病过了3年嘛，到把年龄早晚的钱嘛，没事。那点说联邦系嘛，家里些我的信息嘛的，这个年龄有多么多嘛，联系那种多，上级确实宁波联系什么多啊？那联系上接不多啊？联邦系了，上级确实宁波联系多啊？我联系些我的，那他写的话联系我家里写。其实你的联系的多啊，哪你讲说的什么的写过了？哦，那联系上写不多。联系你看嘛，过那你的联系的，联邦系的还嘛，我那这个哪里宁波我还不会嘛咯？其实你讲到说的写的，当然你的嘛不有了，宁波当然你的个的的 number 点说，你的嘛是的新嘛是那你的联系的多些嘛咯？联系的，那现在我说简单话，是讲联系我的，联系放假了，我是两人写新闻。那写的联系我的联系上就去宁波的联系，我这个联系那么两人没人嘛非常心里吧。
So what we are talking here now is the Four Noble Truths, right? So and this Four Noble Truths is the essence of Buddha's teaching, and so like for example, just now in relation to the true suffering, then we give an example of an appropriated aggregate, right? So this appropriated aggregate, then we have to link it to our own appropriated aggregates. So the appropriated aggregate in my own continuum. So it is impermanent because it is occasionally produced and because it is occasionally disintegrated. So it serves as it also serves as a so through these then we remind ourselves of impermanence and we remind ourselves of death as well. So just like Kadamba Lama says that I've never practiced without first thinking about the death and impermanence. So through thinking about the appropriated aggregates is impermanent, then in the context of Four Noble Truths, then which is the essence of true teachings, then first we study it, so now we are learning about it, then we practice it later. Then we put it into practice. Sorry.
그 시야도 막 대바시로 시부다. 대바시로 맞아. 넘바가 대바시 넘바를 맞아 시부다. 대바시 상징 중에 인고 되려서 그다. 대바시 자도 그래서 어디. 내가 시야가 넘바 시야가 대신 맞아 시부다.
其实那个做饮料的偏当的yang的马戏买那的饮料其实有买的呢。
대바시가 인서 막 맞는 양이 제야 그래요 말이지.
대신 그饮料
인성이 마시는
약간 제요.
저거는 제야 그러면. 아주 대바시는 상징 중에 인고 대바시를 있어.
Yeah. So here we are talking about the Four Noble Truths, and we are talking about the aspects of Four Noble Truths, and which is the essence of Buddha's teaching, right? So if we do not learn about it, then there is no way that we can practice Four Noble Truths, and there is no way that we can practice Buddha's teaching.
어떤 시야 그거도 덴바시 뭐 넘바시다 계시요 말이세요. 덴바시 뭐 지치지라 뭐 지치를 뭐 샤워도 지치등이 뭐 카티자서 되려고. 내가 민주주의 공부대 나가 이미 상호다. 내가 이미 상호대 랭가 지워서다. 나가 이미 상호다. 어디 민주주의 공부 안지 공부대 따반집에 안지시와 대박 가도요. 라니 따반집에 대왕게 때 랭가마다 살이 되려와. 라니 배 따바 장지 장장왕게 땅지왕게 때 랭게마 못 살도록. 와, 어디 땅지 민주주의 공부대 뭐다 베랑이 수수 공부대 뭐다 베랑이 동지 아니 배 따반집에 땅지에 바까 일파 내고 잡도요.
가다데 가래도도 라시.
민주주의 공부
미다바도.
미다바.
미다바도.
어디. 아니 공부대
얘는 공부.
지와도 땅지 지와 대박 가도요. 내가 또 땅지 원들래 너무나 싸다 땅지 원이 싸도요. 예, 소소 가디나 하루 되자 가디나 지금부터 나고 가디나 땡보 되자 그래서 산이 시고 만나니 시고 맞네. 저 따바 땅지 줘라. 킹님보다 여도면서 가서 쉬어도.
So when we talk so I only talk about so what we are talking today is just aspects of Four Noble Truths, right? Or you can say the attributes of Four Noble Truths. So, and when we talk about these, then how does it benefit our practices? So we give an example of appropriated aggregates is impermanent. So when we say that the appropriated aggregates in one's continuum is impermanent. So when we say that appropriated aggregate is impermanent, it already talks about its the object that it counteracts. We already talk about the object it counteracts. So an appropriated aggregate is impermanent. So what does it counteract? It counteracts that appropriated aggregate is permanent. So it cultivates this permanent grasping. So, and because of this permanent grasping, we accumulate all sorts of karma, right? So, and then we think that we are not going to die today, we're not going to die tomorrow. Because of this permanent grasping, then we accumulate all sorts of karma. So, when we say that, when we learn about appropriated aggregate is impermanent, then we already talk about the object that it counteracts, which is the permanent grasping.
나도 나 군주 치워야 나도 군주가 동안 내부 저랑 가지고 비슷하면 쉬이 봐. 군주가 내부 동안이다. 람디디 때 람디기 지지를 쉬어야 돼. 나도 배 오반 제부 줘야라. 배 니모 가르치고 니모 가르치.
오반 제부 줘야라.
오빠 줘야라. 어디 줘야라. 여기 배 니모 가르치고 이 람디기를 봐 쉬이 봐다. 아이 뭐저 잡아 줘야라. 그 사람이 가는 거거든. 그래서 사마한테 쉬이 봐.
고된 줘야라.
어디 줘야라. 어떻게 보다 남디스 주인바 어디 너무 싸워니 뽕뽕듯이 요도 매도 다가다 남디기 뒤서 마치 신이바 지시했어 뭐 나는 이거 두방 이제 뒤서 마치 신이바 어다도 저사마 다 년이 지야 딜 하지 이지 공부를 해서 와 오늘날 근데 뒤서 하는 년이 지야서 단 그냥 공부를
아니 냠리 지야데 하데
공부를 인식이 민고래 아 진짜 년이지 배 지다 공부를 와 양이 지야지 요마스는 디는 아주 den실해. 마디가 양이 요마래.
Yeah. So then in the true origin, then we also talk about the cause. We also talk about the origin, strong productions, and etc. Those are the aspects of true origin. and for the true path as well, then talks about the method to achieve the true cessations, then and all those methods that is able to utterly abandon afflictions are mentioned in the two paths, right? So basically, there is no other there is no phenomena that is not included in the Four Noble Truths.
Yeah. Any question?
Geshila.
Thank you.
Pipin here. We are now in chapter 4, and in chapter 4 there are 11 topics. And now we are talking about the 27 aspects under the Noble Base in chapter 4. Which topics in the chapter 4 it is fall under?
11 topics, yeah. Di tanda kap shiba ina di namzu jowa ro. Sorry, this complete application. Yeah, namzu jowa di nanglo la kaza
Number 30.
number di mai are 11 kap shiba di nanglo la ngobo juji re ngobo juji.
나도 좀 제일 지키려고 그래. 나도 좀 제일 지키려고.
di 春季里去春季里去juji di nanglo la这tanda kang shiba di ini di 春季里去juji di nang ne kagi la di shigi wares.
최소의 넘버 지우를 가서 마셔야 돼. 근데 최소의 넘버 지우를 비 원하는 넘버 넣어서랬어. 근데 가서 시야 돼. 최소의 넘버 지우를. 나도 좋아. 넘버 자든지 자스도 최소의 넘버 뒤에 지우를 간다.
양게 그 소로나.
나도 좋아. 넘버 자든지 자스 시우도 와.
걔는 되지.
자든지 자스데. 이 최소의 넘버 뒤에 시우를. 최소의 넘버 뒤에 지우를. 그 누구 제가 그 넘버 시우를.
지상이 된 남수 좋아. 걔는 되지. 자숨데 펜숨기 넘버라 뒤두기오래.
최소의 넘버 뒤에 시우를 해서 넘버 최소의 넘버 뒤에 시우라. 최소의 넘버 그가 시우로 간다. 최소의 넘버 시우자리 제가 넘버 그가 시우로 간다.
비상이 되다 공기 저와 대한 춘지기 최주지 이 나네 이
상박의 넘버 시우로 그래.
상마 춘지 최주지 그 차상대 시기 그래.
소소가 그냥 가리나 너무 무슨 다 민만 터지요 말. 근데 참고 시우로 그래.
비상이 이렇게 넘버 뒤에 시와디 춘지 최주지 낭로라 그 상마
소모 시우로 그래. 상마.
that's all. Yeah. So this application in complete aspects, then there are 173 aspects, right? And then it talks about the collective. It collectively talks about the aspects of three exodus knowers, and these collective explanations of aspects of three exodus knowers are mentioned. So you are asking which topic that it relates to, right? So it's mentioned in the whole fourth chapter, complete aspect, because the application of complete aspects is mentioned in the whole chapter. So it pervades all of these topics.
이거等到我是这么细个그거는 덴바시라 강자자는 시고다. 나도 그 전부 쇼자들. 나도 최선의 넘버 시는 맞는 덴바시래. 최선의 넘버 시는 맞는 덴바시래 그래. 최선의 넘버디. 덴바시래 그래. 덴바시래 뭐 최초도 뭐 넘버 쩌니. 로소소소소마 마 쩌니. 我相信你写我的嘛都。안다 나도 덴바시 최선의 넘버 여단 변화서 되시대. 최선의 넘버 한 되시 그래.
也从我点系的，其实我做的点系的新有那的轻松的那么的新有的，
新有的电视要不现在确实能把它新有的，
那时候，
那我自己家嘛就电视下去我们多，是其实能把新有的，他其中的话，我想觉得，刚才第一集了，机器，刚才第一集那么去，刚才第一集，一些浪线是呢，都是嘛，我最近的嘛，家我的，那说这个能把的嘛就新有的话。等你还过下去的话，连把现在全是你哪把的，全是你哪把连把现在先把解药嘛是，全是哪把是。
Yeah, so we talk about the aspects of three exodus knowers. Then is to understand the knower of bases in the continuum of a particular person, is to understand the knower of halves in the continuum of a particular person. Similarly, is to understand the exalted knower of all aspects in the continuum of a particular person. So then, so if we understand, when we talk about these three, the aspects of three exalted knowers, so if it is condensed, it can be condensed into four noble truths. So that's why we are talking about the aspects of four noble truths. We are talking about the aspects of four noble truths. We are talking about the four noble truths. So if we understand properly the four noble truths, then we understand the aspects of three exalted knowers.
等到我说怎么没大把的讲啊，讲的大把的没大把的辛苦了，啊没大把是现在我也这个，没把辛苦了，看都都是没大把是吧？没大把是吧？没把辛苦了，看确实的是，第三个是大的，晚上第三个晚上呢，讲的没大把是吧的，没不去看里面，啊对，哎，什么晚上这个嘛，没大把是吧？没把辛苦了，龙啊对比起些人多，龙啊对比起些。
So, like for example, now we are learning about the Four Noble Truths, the aspects of Four Noble Truths, and we know about impermanence as well. So, and this impermanence we always talk about it. We know about it for a long time already. However, if you were to think about, so in which truth does this impermanence included? Yeah, does this impermanence include? Then in which truth is this impermanence included? Then if we do not think about it, then we might not be able to understand that questions, right? So after learning about the aspects of Four Noble Truths, then and knowing that this impermanence that we have known for a long time is included in the true suffering, which is one of the it's the aspect of true suffering.
我第三个矛盾呢，我是超过的是，他说那他把是毛不写的哟。타바토가 타바도 내바시는 마상을 따다 내바시는 가르드는 한 어디 주시 들어와.
Yeah, so similarly, when we talk, we always think about achieving liberation and etc. Again, if we relate it to Four Noble Truths, in which truth is it included? Then, then if you think about it, then you will be, you'll be understand that you will be able, you will know that it is included in the true cessation.
我的理解，这个加马写吧，连巴写的嘛写我的怕，连巴写的怕当的，对，是这个两人知道怕家里写我的马不，我都等于就要拿去，长期跑不起，多年学生都没钱吧，你对着就把去，刚上当年都没钱吧，就是什么连巴写的卡路里不都是，连巴写的卡路里不都是，那就是什么当不了。长期跑不起，多年学生都没钱吧，就是话，连巴写的卡路里不都是，连巴写的卡路里不都是。 내게 밥이지 밤에 그것도 첨바데 내가 진노 흘리고스 나 저는 상황이다
다시 비교기 자세 파바 교기 방
본인에서 더 첨바 내게 더 이제 밤에 그것도 첨바 또 내가 진노 흘리고스다.
So and then we know many things and then sometimes we do not we do not know the connections or relationship between them. So then we will not be able to understand that they are actually connected. So when we talk about the Four Noble Truths, then we talk about the aspects of Four Noble Truths, and then we also talk about the example for the Noble Truths, right? The example of those aspects. So for example, again, the exalted knower directly realizing emptiness in the continuum of an Arya. So if I were to say this, so in which truth is it included? Again, the exalted knower directly realizing emptiness in the continuum of Arya. So similarly, the exalted knower directly realizing emptiness in the continuum of an Arya Bodhisattva. So again, the exalted knower directly realizing emptiness in the continuum of a hearer's Arhat. So again, in which truth is it included? Are they included? So
thank you. That's really showing.
Yeah, so I will stop here. Thank you.
That John's drawing instead of to teach
So if you have any question, then you can ask in coming class.
number 남친이 남바 시외에 장주 소디네 거. 딱 가서 또 맞춰야 돼. 장주 소디 들어와. 장주 소디 그래. 다 단다 가서 안다 이주지 남바 니히자리도 말로로시. 당신 남바 소도 요래. 이 말로로지마. 뭐에서 이게 제라 장주 소디. 이게 제라. 남친 남바와. 남친 남바 시외에 장주 소디 시오.
Yeah. So now we are still on the aspects of the aspects of knower of basis. So we are talking about the 27 aspects, and then we'll go through it in a brief manner. Then similarly, when we go to the 36 aspects of knower of paths, then we will go through it in a briefly manner again. Then the next one is the aspects of exalted knower of all aspects. There are 110 of it, and then that is where we are going to talk about the main subject of this module, which is the 37 harmonies with enlightenment. And these 37 harmonies with enlightenment are the first 37 out of 110 aspects of exalted knower of all aspects.
Yeah.
Yeah, so probably you cannot wait to learn about the 37 harmonies with enlightenment. You cannot wait anymore. Yes. Yeah, so regarding these aspects, actually, they are very important, and then at least we must remember the number of aspects. Them. And what we talked about today is the Four Noble Truths. So we have already talked about Four Noble Truths for a long time. We have already talked about Four Noble Truths for a long time, right?
Thank you. This stop here. That day, the one that the temperature and water of the jungle to children, teaching of a social policy, you will temper and look to the pussy, the root issue. Another could have a taking of a sort of Yancy to me, you do open, watching a heap and chase how much you is that. That and that amounted to stop, should you wanted to park. You to do then you to do the park, and Zanil by staying water. Come on to gauge person get sitting in days and not say what Thomas of the department of Sandish Kuman, you don't or that the leech is a Pachimo history.
So we conclude this with dedication. We dedicate these roots of virtue to the flourishing of Buddha Dharma and to the excellent happiness of all sentient beings. And we also dedicate these roots of virtue for all upholders of Buddha's teaching, mainly His Holiness the Dalai Lama, to live eons long and to have good health, excellent health. And may they live eons long and may their enlightened activities and holy wishes be accomplished instantaneously and spread in all 10 directions. In particular, we dedicate these roots of virtue for our beloved teacher, Gyaltsen Lama Zopa Rinpoche. May the unmistaken reincarnations of Rinpoche be swiftly returned and continue to turn the wheel of Dharma for the sake of teachings and sentient beings, and so that we will have the opportunity to receive the profound teaching from Rinpoche again, just like before. And we also dedicate these roots of virtue to the world peace, and may excellent happiness prevail in the world. May wars, conflicts, they are getting more and more, and they're getting worse and worse. So may they be pacified immediately, and may disaster, natural disaster, pandemic, endemic diseases be pacified immediately. And we also dedicate these roots of virtue to all sentient beings in general. In particular, we dedicate these roots of virtue to those who pass away and those who suffer because of wars and conflicts and disaster. So may their suffering be pacified immediately and achieve the state of enlightenment as quickly as possible.
Missing what the war teacher and also what is so good. No teacher the war. No teacher the under sinking book, Karina, Shad, Papa, Chop, Papa, Chop, Polasba, and the teacher that you married about that full book as a sage of rest. Or that the Zutaman, seeking to look along teacher that the message and you can gather about Kanda, say for 2 minutes, but Tani, the Sunday to Kumba, and you to try again. In Chepaji to the Chiapa. So teaching is about
We also dedicate these roots of virtue to those sentient beings who are killed and who are slaughtered because of their skins, because of their meat, because of their bodies and etc. for the sake of certain people's wealth and etc. So, and because of this, then many animal beings and many beings are slaughtered. So every day, so like 10,000 of them, 100,000 of them, and etc. So many of them are killed every day for some people's wealth. So we also dedicate these roots of virtue to those beings. So may their negativity accumulated since beginningless time be pacified immediately, and may they achieve a special basis of body. Sabe ke wadi tendang roa kun la kambe shangshi ba ji zui lo san da ba yi bin be yin bo rin lo se ji so tian zhu sen zhou rin bo ji ma ke fa na ji liu ji wa nian ba me ba yang kun ye kun do me wa shuo jian be ba wen chi da jian ba da kun do san bo de ya de chi li de da ku ji jie so da su che ke wa ri da dan che da do tu ni da wa rin bo ji ma ke fa na ji liu ji chi wa nian ba me ba yang kun ye kun do me wa shuo ri ni da wa rin bo ji ma ke fa na ji liu ji chi wa nian ba me ba yang kun ye kun do me wa shuo tu ni ni jie su do ju be la chi jie se se kan jie de de gen chi la be mo de de jiang zuo la su wa de su xin de de lo shuo da me dian ba jie se de ran zuo dou san jie wa ya se ji ba jie ran jia xi ji jie yong xi in the me ban tu be ke le zo yong zuo zuo be tu de de bo ji xi da tu be jin zhen be wa la na yang wei xun su be guo jia jie zu be jie zui ma ma su wa de bi de wa de ju yue xi gu ga ye de na ma ju zhuo wa ye de na ji do zhen ban zhe be mo lo bo xi wa xi de li le ban wen dan ju zuo ge zui ji zhuo dang ga zhe na jie tu jie la bo jie de me de bi yang zuo sa be zhe tie zang du tie be de niu xie su su 不为情感的美大的我们的今天是我定制叫做一小比世界包括的有。Oh yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Geshe